Well, that's what we start off with today on Sunrise Daily. We're joined by Mr. Daffy Akpede, who is a senior advocate of Nigeria, a legal practitioner. Thank you for coming on this morning.
Thank you, Chamberlain.
Wow, what an interesting scenario yesterday, and different perspectives about this one. First and foremost, they had the Court of Appeal adjourned indefinitely, and many thought, whoa, they were meant to deliver judgment, and then at that point they adjourned indefinitely. And then you have the Code of Conduct Tribunal, that argument between both counsels saying, no, 2 weeks, something, no, it shouldn't be 2 weeks. Why don't you just, the same way it was adjourned indefinitely. But let's start with the Court of Appeal. At the point where they were supposed to give judgment, is it usual, is it normal for them to have adjourned sitting indefinitely?
Well, we don't know all the facts at this point in time of why they adjourned. But it was one of the other curious that the adjournment had no time limit and was indefinite. And so it leaves a lot of people guessing as to what to do. Mind you, they had actually promised before October 21st, they will give a judgment. So one way or the other, the Code of Conduct Tribunal will know where to go. As it is right now, as long as this is pending, the Code of Conduct Tribunal truly can know what to do. Because as aware, they're challenging their competencies to try this matter. And they can't really truly forage into trying to do a matter when the sword of Damocles, as it were, was standing over their heads as to decide what the Court of Appeal wants to do. So truly speaking, until we landed on the Court of Appeal, there is a challenge as to what will happen in the CCT.
But two things. The other aspect of it, I understand that there were two prayers for the Code of Conduct, the Court of Appeal, one to stay proceedings and the other jurisdiction. So they struck out that of the stay of proceedings and then waiting to give judgment on the jurisdiction. Is that suggesting that, no, they can go ahead, but the question of jurisdiction?
Well, if you are challenged, just let's do the analogy. If you say that I don't have the ability to deal with the matter, and that has not been determined, even though if I refuse you a stay of proceedings, does it make any prudent sense to continue doing the matter when you know that might go one way or the other? I think the cautious thing to do would be to wait for the Court of Appeal, and that's exactly what the Code of Conduct Tribunal did. But now, if you remember, there's argument between both counsels as to whether it should be a deadline or a date on when to fix it. Now, because they're depending on waiting for the Court of Appeal to decide what to do, and the Court of Appeal has joined, as it were, sine die, waiting with no time in mind, then truly speaking, setting a date for 5th and 6th, I don't know what purpose it serves. Because if you come on the 5th and 6th and the Court of Appeal has not decided, we'll just be adjourning circles. But I can see some sense in it. You don't want to leave this in limbo. You want it to stay in there so that you can. There's some reminder that the Court of Appeal needs to do what they need to do for the CCT to proceed.
And then if you look at the whole entire scenario, I mean, when counsels and journalists even say, when it got to the Court of Appeal, they were all surprised as to they adjourned because they had taken everything, delivered the judgments. So that's why we did ask, and they also wonder. Even lawyers too were surprised, some of them saying, look, something seems to be amiss. Well,
the Court of Appeal had said initially that it would deliver judgment before the 21st of October. That thing came on the 19th. That decision to adjourn the matter, sine die, till when we know, came on the 19th. Now, we don't know all the facts yet. We don't know what influenced that decision. We don't know why the court, but it's not unusual in the judicial process to adjourn matters indefinitely. The only reason why this is generating so much foray is because of the nature of the personalities involved. It's number 3 cities in the country. Everybody seems to be interested in what wants to happen. Mind you, what is challenging, you need to see the challenges he has before the Court of Appeal. First, that he also challenged the fact that the CCT is not properly constituted. There ought to be 3 members and 2 members sitting. Now, what one thinks very quickly, if there's a tie between the presiding officer of the CCT and the other official, what goes? That's why you must have the numbers uneven. And that's one of the challenges of the council, JB Daudu, SAN, that the tribunal has not been properly constituted. And if that were so, if the Court of Appeal agrees, then obviously whatever the CCT would do would become void ab initio.
But the CCT didn't see it from that. They said, no, we'll go ahead.
But that's your view, and that's why there's an appellate court sitting over it. The CCT obviously think they're on right footing, and that's why they want to continue. But as long as, because you must see the doctrine of stare decisis, there's a judicial precedence on which you must respect. The Court of Appeal sees as a supervisory court over the CCT.
With this lapse now, with this lapse or this logjam, seeming logjam as to the number of those to constitute the tribunal, has there been a precedent before?
One of the things you find that happening in the CCT, they've not been very active before now. And so, understandably, there perhaps was no reason before now, and didn't have any trial of this magnitude. But truly, it's now come to the fore. And one of the things that makes this logjam interesting, who will confirm the additional party who becomes a member of the tribunal? The Senate. So, in trying to fix this, it's very difficult. if the Senate, 80 senators accompany him, 81 senators there, will they approve somebody to come try their own? Undoubtedly, very, very unlikely.
What does that do when 80 senators accompany Senate presidents to the trial? I mean, I know that judge, they always say, look, it's based on the
what they're
facts.
telling you, this man will support him. We're going to stand by him.
So it's a statement.
Obviously, it's a statement. It's a no-brainer to think that's a statement. If 80 of your colleagues out of 100 something plus, more than 3/4 of your colleagues are following the place, it gives you the confidence. You can see the man, you can see the swag he has right now. It was
I'm
different
just
from the
wondering,
first time.
aren't they two things, political statement and legal statement? Is that tenable legally? Because it has to be based on the points of law.
Legal statements, you must see the facts as they are, and the facts are presented to you. Obviously, whatever political bravado you're doing will not affect generally what the legal position is. But they are not unconnected. Because sometimes perceptions becomes reality. You see a man and people who ostensibly you think should not be with him and standing by him, you're sending a statement that, look, we want to sink and swim with him. And that itself, the mind is very, very funny. Things play on the mind. You need to be very strong and be extremely strong to ignore that and proceed as a way it is. But let's see how this plays out. It's beginning to be a very interesting game. And not going to be as quick as a lot of people think.
Wow, and some of the other things that those who were there mentioned is that prosecuting counsel was the one who moved that, okay, well, let's adjourn for 2 weeks. And people thought, wait a minute, you're prosecuting counsel, you should be insisting that the trial continues. And so, what usually happens?
No, I think here, Rotimi had no choice, Jacobs. He had no choice in circumstance. He's aware of the doctrine of studies. He's aware that there's a matter pending in the Court of Appeal. He knows that the decision on the Court of Appeal could affect the trial one way or the other. So why waste time engaging in frolic, do it complete trial, and only for you to find out that as aware that you shouldn't have done it in the first place. It truly makes sense that the Court of Appeal does come up with a pronouncement of whether what happened in CCC on the 21st or 22nd of September when it started on the 18th was actually in due course and they were done properly so that you don't waste the time of everybody and then waste time of Nigerians.
But as a senior advocate, though, I'm just a little worried. Are you concerned about how the judiciary could come out of this?
No. To this point, nothing untoward has happened. These are processes that have happened before. Like I said.
No, what I mean is, if, for instance, now we're talking about, politics, we're also talking about law. I mean, the Senate president made it very clear he believes all of this is politically motivated.
What did you expect him to say otherwise? Understandably, he's a man for
and it doesn't look like he's the only one who believes that. I mean, when you find that 81 senators are right behind him, accompanying him to the Code of Conduct Tribunal, it means that they also believe that this is politically motivated as well, whatever it means. At the end of the day, how do you think that this will affect the judiciary's work?
One of the things I've come to notice about Nigerians is that you hardly find anybody that sits on an even plane. Things are driven by people's perception. Things are driven by how people perceive things, how they see things. Mind you, this whole thing came to the fore. While you can allude to the fact that there's some political motivation, this whole thing came to the fore. The man imagined as Senate president, understandably with the opposition actively supporting him to achieve the Senate presidency. Since then, it's never been easy tea party for him, or indeed the APC. Then been that conflict happening in the party. So you can easily allude to the fact that there's some political undertone. But the fact of the matter is that were the infractions made? Now, if the infractions were made, that's one step. Do you have due process to actually prosecuting infractions? If the Court of Appeal holds with them that the reasons raised, that he has not been properly arraigned because the panel was not properly constituted, or you don't have a complete panel, then that becomes a matter of law. Then you need to fix that. Now, the logjam I see and what the problem is that for you to fix that problem, you need to go back to the Senate. And if 80 of the senators are backing him, then understandably, self-preservation shows that they will not let that happen.
So it means that...
But it's not a legal problem, because it's not a legal perception of what the legal situation is. It's a problem we found ourselves, which we ought to have fixed before now. And because we didn't fix it before now, it's come to the fore at this point in time. And now you're now having challenge to fix it because interests have been embedded. People have very interest in this.
So chances are high that even if this trial maybe were to discontinue for whatever reasons, and the code of conduct, we know that it needs to be completed for whatever reason, you don't see the senators given the approval, even if it didn't involve one of their own?
I would not. You see, you need to look at things in the proper context. Now we have this problem. the problem that one of their own is now in the mix of it, ask you the question mark, but would you do that? Very unlikely. And these are the challenges we have where I say people just have interest and they don't look at the bigger issues. And it's all over, it pervades the entire country. It's not one place. This is just coming to the fore now because it's the most topical thing in our news today. But the reality of the situation, if you want to be realist, the chances that this might have challenges. And mind you, this is one stage. You can still go the long distance. And so anybody solving for survival at that level where finances and ability to hire the best lawyers is not in doubt, then obviously this is going the distance.
Wow. You know, I've heard people talk about certain things about in what circumstances can the tribunal chair overrule himself. Remember, they also talked about the fulfillment of, I think, Section 3D, prior notice as a condition precedence before the trial continues, informing the person of the cases. They said happened in 2011, and so it looks a bit different now. So, can the chairman overrule himself?
You know, I am careful not to delve into the forum because this matter is sub judice, into the merits of the matter. So we also need to be careful. We can discuss around the parameters, the issues involved, because of it's a national issue, it's a serious political point. But we need to be careful not to do the discussions or to do in court. Can the tribunal overrule himself in certain circumstances, maybe on procedural matters? But in substantive matters, I doubt if he can do that without him being challenged.